He came home to an empty house.
She moved out like in the middle of the day when I was working. So on Friday after work, came home to nothing.
But weeks later, everything changed. Not only was she back, but she was all in for their future together.
She's back in the condo that we lived together. Things changed really quickly.
In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how Coult achieved this stunning breakthrough using the RISE framework. That not only got her investing in the marriage again, but also taking full ownership of her side of the street, which is crazy.
All of the accountability went from kind of my issues to her taking full responsibility for her issues.
And there's also more. You're in for a treat because I'll also reveal a hidden desire she has deep down buried there. That's a goldmine of insight for guys when they see it. It's a concept that honestly, most guys never uncover with their wives. It is the key to unlocking an unparalleled connection with her.
And you also touched on it too. This is the biggest thing, Coult, which is huge for guys to get, which I love that you brought up.
It all starts with this first principle of the RISE framework. It's the key to breaking the barrier that's kept her distant, reducing the constant feeling of spinning your wheels, and paving the way for a deeper, more authentic connection with her. Here it is in Coult's words.
I think like with anything, realizing that problems that were going on were not only of my responsibility, but also they were bigger than even what maybe she let on. That was one of the issues, is that whenever she would bring something to my attention, I would think it's like, this is so trivial. Like, why are you even talking about this? And, I would typically just be dismissive of it. So yeah, that was the first thing for me, was just understanding I was doing a lot of things incorrectly, and just kind of accepting that was the first step for me.
Coult first had to recognize reality for what it was. This means setting your ego aside and facing the truth about your role in the relationship and where things are actually at. When your ego blinds you, and it really blinds you to her perspective, and her perspective is vital if you want to get her back. And let me tell you, this is hard to do, and a lot of guys get stuck with this because our egos show up in so many ways. Listen as I expand on this.
We talk about that a lot in the program, about like having that ego, right? Where it's like getting defensive, being reactive, right? And putting the blame outside of yourself. That's like that victim paradigm. And then the other side, the apex, is right. It's like, okay, maybe it's just something she's saying here, even if it's not delivered with some sugar, if there's some truth in it, right? And like being able to like take that and see what she's trying to say, to how she wants to change you for the positive, because she wants to connect with you, even though it's a criticism. That's like step number one, is recognizing, like putting your ego aside. Okay, there is something here in her complaints and her pulling away and what she's saying that I can listen to. Maybe look at myself in the mirror and say, what is it that caused her to, push her away?
Imagine driving a car with a dirty windshield, right? It's dirt everywhere on the glass. I mean, it could pass for modern art, right? And your wiper blades are barely doing the job. It's just caked on there. At first, you might ignore it, thinking it's fine. I can still see through, the parts of the cracks of the road. But as the dirt begins to build up, your visibility just gets worse and worse. You start to really miss important details on the road ahead. It's not until you pull over and clean the windshield that you realize just how much you were missing. In relationships, your ego is like that dirt. It clouds your vision and keeps you from seeing the full picture of what's really going on and really how you're contributing to it. Recognizing reality is like cleaning the windshield. It's the first step in navigating the road ahead with clarity. Now, Coult understood this all too well, especially as things began to unravel.
We had been having kind of conversations about the issues that we had for about 2 weeks. And it was just getting worse, even though I was, doing everything that I could to make things better.
Now, it didn't help that outside voices only added confusion and hindered their progress.
And I was getting a lot of bad advice from, family members and friends and stuff like that.
It wasn't until Coult faced the reality of losing her that everything just hit him. I mean, the thought of her being gone for good, it sparked a sense of urgency, but by then the damage had already been done. That's common, isn't it?
She moved out like in the middle of the day when I was working. So on Friday after work, came home to nothing.
But Coult had something powerful in his corner: personalized one-on-one help from us. This other perspective from someone who has seen thousands of cases guided him to uncover the second critical step, which includes a hidden desire she has deep buried down I talked about. It is honestly the missing link to building a new level of trust and unlocking unparalleled connection that you never thought you could have with her. Just seeing different parts of her that like she never really wanted to show you. Imagine revealing a part of her that you're like, where has this been? Or her saying things positive about you that you never thought she even thought of. And we're going to cover a lot of helpful insights with this next step, but let's hear it in Coult's words first.
Being more active in the moment of listening to understand and just reflecting how she's feeling was so big for us.
He's talking about what I call intuitive connection. The ability to tune into what your wife is really feeling beyond her words and reflect that back to her. When you do this, it shows her you're fully present and fully understanding her, right? Which breaks down the walls and builds up trust. The walls of resentment go away and trust comes in. Or as Marshall B. Rosenberg puts it in his Nonviolent Communication book, an amazing book, by the way, he says, empathy lies in our ability to be present without offering solutions, to remain in the space of what is alive in the other person, and then as a mirror to reflect that back. Now, I want to dive deeper with this and really break down 3 aspects to achieving intuitive connection. The first aspect of intuitive connection is really being unreactive.
In the past couple of weeks where she's been back home, we've had not arguments, but like maybe kind of little things where it was like, it could have turned into an argument, and then I just kind of remained calm. And where in the past I would just like anything that annoyed me, I would just I wouldn't get upset or anything like that, but I would be very vocal, and my wife would take that as like, he's just beating me down with like things that I'm not doing correctly. And me, I'm just thinking like, oh no, I'm just telling you, this is, how I feel about the situation. So just knowing what time to come to that. And then, if I have issues, I, stop sending texts about things. And if I do feel something, put it on pause, and then a day later, I probably won't even feel the same thing, and I'll just not even bring it up, type of thing.
Coult really mastered the ability to stay calm and unreactive in moments that could have really spiraled into conflict. Whether it was de-escalating a potential argument that really might have easily escalated in the past, or just holding back from impulsively texting about issues, and instead of allowing time for his emotions to settle down, that dust to settle, to see things clearly, he was able to approach these really situations from a place of calm, or I like to say a place of silent power.
Once you get this idea down of that every complaint she has, every disconnect she feels with you, it all stems back to her not feeling safe emotionally, right? If you look at like, oh, you're not making decisions, you're not leading, she doesn't feel safe with that. You're being inconsistent with your word and your action. Oh, she can't trust that, right? You're whatever it is, or you're being reactive to her, you're blowing up, she doesn't feel safe with you. She's expressing her emotions, but you're trying to get rid of her emotions. That if you tie it all back to like, she needs to feel safe, her heart needs to feel protected, and like you are the man that's going to keep her safe and protected so she can lean into you. It's like you always operate from that like perspective that everything you do is just try to make her feel safe. It's like you can't go wrong with that, right?
Now this ties back to what I've said about letting go of your ego. It's one of the most effective ways to remain unreactive.
And the biggest thing about that, before I let you chime in, is we tie it back to ego now. Is like ego is like, I'm going to focus on my own needs. Like she's upsetting me. She's attacking me. If you put all your attention like I'm going to make sure she feels good, and you're like thinking about her emotions, it like almost auto corrects.
In those moments, shifting the focus to her emotions instead of your own has a powerful effect. And here's the result of Coult applying this principle.
And my wife has made comments like, oh, and she like will write me letters and stuff like that, where she'll just say like, I'm so excited how calm you've been throughout this whole situation, and I'm very glad that you continue to kind of fight for our relationship, and any number of different things like that.
The second part of it is understanding her emotions, which, by the way, makes the first point much easier.
Understanding that what she's saying to me is not how she truly feels. What she's saying to me is how she might feel in that very moment. Mm-hmm. And that would really get to me, and that would kind of make me react. So best advice, don't be reactive. Understand that what she's saying in the moment is not exactly how she feels.
The biggest hang up for a lot of guys is that when their wives are shutting down, or she's saying like, I don't love you anymore, like, and she's all angry, right? They don't see that she's actually hurt and she doesn't mean those things. And so they're responding to the words she's saying, which is like that logical paradigm.
When you understand that her words in the heat of the moment reflect her temporary emotions, not her deeper truth, you'll stop reacting to the surface and start connecting what's really underneath. Usually there's pain, right? Fear of abandonment, not what she's presenting. And this is where you unlock the hidden desire that she has, right? A longing most men never really realize. Have a listen.
Just allowing yourself to sit in those negative emotions with her really helped kind of a lot of our reconciliation conversations. And
this is the biggest thing, Coult, which is huge for guys to get, I love that you brought up, which is the idea that when she's upset, you want to make her happy. Of course you do. You're on cloud 9 when she's happy. Like, life is good. But for a woman who loves to experience a range of emotions, when she's going through that, she wants to feel that emotion. So allowing her to feel it, because when you try to make her feel better, she's like, oh, he doesn't want me to be the way I am.
Women crave the freedom to feel a range of emotions. When you rush to pull her out of those emotions, just using logic or just trying to solve things. Get rid of her, not invalidate her. It can come across, even though you don't intend this, it can come across as you're just rejecting her for being herself because that's who she is in the moment. But you disagree with that. You're trying to change it. You see that trying to change or not accept causes friction. Instead of allowing her to process and fully be supported, it breaks the connection with you and her, okay? Even if you don't agree with her perspective, okay, which most times you won't when there's conflict, of course. Mirroring her emotions and reflecting your words back, it shows that you understand and that you're also willing to sit through that storm with her. And therefore, she'll feel safe to go with you to take her out. But you have to go into the storm with her first. Embrace her emotions. For example, if she says things like, I feel like I'm the only one putting effort into this marriage, you can respond by saying, I hear you. It feels like I haven't been as present or as invested as you need me to be. I can see how that's frustrating. Or if she says, you're never reliable. And then you can think of all the times that you are reliable, but you don't say that because that's how she feels right there in that moment. That's how she feels. She knows it's not always or never, but she feels that way. So don't argue with semantics. Any form of minimizing, trying to find evidence to prove against her point, that's all logic, okay? And she's gonna say, you just don't understand me. You don't get me. You don't feel me, right? That's what that frustration comes from her. And she's like, this guy just doesn't get me. She doesn't want to be with a guy that doesn't get her, okay? You may not agree with every word, but validating her feelings doesn't mean you're admitting fault or taking blame. You're saying, you sit next to her, you can literally put your head in her head, look through her eyes. Oh, this is the way you see the world. Reflect that to her, okay? It makes her feel seen and heard. So you create that safety environment, that microcosm of safety between you and her, this little atmosphere, right? This alone can diffuse tension and rebuilds trust in ways that you never thought possible. Now, the third part of this that really helps you achieve intuitive connection is known as understanding your own emotions, okay? And there's a caveat, not just understanding them, but also knowing how to express them. What do I mean by this? Well, many men believe that they're emotionally intelligent because they can recognize what they're feeling, which is a great first step, okay? But emotional competence goes deeper than that. It takes it a step further past intelligence. It's about recognizing those emotions, owning them, and then expressing them in a way that is congruent with your actions. Here's what I mean. You kind of think of like a through line, like a straight linear line between how you feel, what you say, and what you do, okay? There's no kinks in that. This is where many guys fall into the trap of really being emotionally incompetent. Not because they don't feel, but because they suppress or disguise their authentic self, their authentic emotions, especially when those emotions seem weak.
She, said that, she felt like she was talking to, a different person or, a lot of these things that I wasn't expecting her to say because in our relationship, because things had been going well for so long, I thought that I was, an emotionally intelligent guy, but I just wasn't like implementing any of these things. I wasn't, what's the term I think you use? Not emotionally intelligent, but maybe you can use the words that I'm looking for.
Emotionally competent, I think is maybe the word.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was watching. I saw a video on that the other day, and I was like, finally, someone gets it because someone else echoed what I said, which is someone in the audience was like, I feel like I'm emotionally intelligent, and the person on stage was like, you probably are for yourself, but I think for me, I call emotional competence is understanding your emotions is one thing, but then acting congruently through them. Right, the idea of congruence, which is like you have your experience of emotions. Do you honestly express that, and do you have action through it? So it's like a clear through line versus like, oh, I feel jealous or insecure or envious, but I'm not going to show her that because I don't want to seem weak. That's incongruent, which is actually not manly, right? Which is not apex.
When you choose to express your emotions honestly, it creates a sense of safety and trust. Your wife doesn't have to guess what you're feeling or assume the worst because you're being transparent. And of course, research even shows that openly expressing those emotions, who you are, fosters transparency, right? Like, this is who I am, reveal, not hide, right? Which is a key to satisfaction in relationships. By showing her you're secure enough to be vulnerable, you build mutual understanding, and that's what truly earns your respect and admiration. But there's a key factor that can quietly sabotage your progress. One most men don't really realize until, well, it's too late, of course. The damage has been done. It causes them to spiral backwards if they never learn it. So this next step will tackle that silent intruder. And this is also where your wife will start to own her own actions, I promise you. The third point is called steady effort. Listen to Coult explain it.
I still have to remind myself of these things because even though I'm out of the doghouse and the situations aren't as kind of tense where it's not always in front of mind, because anytime we had a conversation in the past, I was like, all my kind of training was right there. But now as things have gotten better, that's just as much of a kind of an important stage as keeping all of that, somewhere that's readily available and just being able to notice that stuff and then just continue to like work on myself continuously, because when you don't have anybody else besides your wife to keep you accountable, you're only getting from her, and it's sometimes it's tough to see what it is that she's trying to say.
Coult realized that maintaining steady effort was essential to really creating lasting change. The truth is, making progress in your marriage isn't just about those big breakthroughs. Everyone's looking through a big breakthrough, right? It's about daily consistency. Just like working out, just like your career, okay? Your initial changes may help you climb out of the tough spots, but staying the course ensures your progress stands the test of time, okay? Daily little actions. As Coult pointed out, when the tension of your relationship eases, it's easy to let your guard down and fall back into old patterns. I see it all the time with guys in our program. They save their marriage and they come back a month later, hey, things got a little bit worse. I'm here again to get back on top of things, right? That's why our program is so powerful, because other guys are able to bring them back in. So steady effort is so important. It ensures that the habits you built become second nature, an unconscious competence. There's a part of who you are. Right? It also helps protect you from a silent intruder that can really wreak havoc on your progress, which I'll explain just in a moment. But first, what does steady effort even really look like? I mean, the biggest part of it is just staying accountable without external accountability, okay? It's tempting to let things slide. Instead, commit regularly to reflecting on your actions and behaviors, and don't rely solely on your wife for feedback, okay? Make it a habit to ask, am I showing up as the man that I committed to becoming? The vision of the man you want to be, are you taking daily steps toward that, or are you not? This simple question helps you maintain focus and avoid complacency. It's just constantly adjusting your focus right to where you are if you're getting distracted. Now, be proactive. Don't wait for conflict to arise before applying what you've learned, right? Practice consistency, even especially during peaceful moments, to show her that your changes are genuine and lasting. And this is honestly, steady effort is a lot easier when you have so much support, a whole community of men, just constantly you're falling off. You have brothers in arms that are reaching out to you every single day, you're posting in the group, you're doing the course, you're talking to a coach. It is almost impossible to fail. This is why you can set up a call with our team down below for a chance to join our program. Make sure you're fully committed and we can help you out. But there's another reason steady effort is critical. It helps fend off an intruder that can wreak havoc, as I said before. Now, this is a goldmine of information about real struggles and inner conflicts that so many men face. So pay close attention. Just listen to our conversation about this.
Just making sure that I'm not allowing resentment to come back into place, because that was the first week back. That was a lot of the emotions that I was feeling was man, she really messed me up financially. I'm going to have to work, super hard during the holidays to get back on track. And these are thoughts that are going into my head. And, Mark and Chris had to kind of remind me, if you knew where you were at, 2 weeks ago, you would not be feeling these thoughts. You would be excited about it. But now that you have her back, you're kind of going back to what could I have done differently to stop it?
Yeah, in regards to having that resentment, that's a huge component there. That's why the forgiveness module is so early in the program, because that will self-sabotage a lot of men. They'll have progress with their wife, and then that pain and resentment will come out, and they'll do things to just push her away. And it's oh crap, right? And so when it comes to those negative thought patterns, culture, I think the biggest thing for me that helps men a lot is, number one, is don't deny that those are there. Definitely recognize and say, okay, almost there's two people inside of you, right? Have a conversation with that resentment. Okay, what's going on? Why are you resentful? Because she didn't know this and this. Okay, cool. Hear it out, right? It's it's usually a younger version of yourself, a child version, and listen to him, right? Because if you suppress that person, he's going to get louder and louder. So once you do that, and then the second thing you did, which I love how that Chris and Mark helped you, is the perspective shift, right? Which is okay, I mean, you laid out the perspective perfectly, but one perspective that I like is you just ask yourself, are these thoughts serving me for the man I want to be and what I want in my life? It's no, right? If you really think about it, you want to be happy with her. And so holding on to that resentment is going to push her away. You're going to be more dismissive. She's going to feel it. It's going to go back in the same cycle. So yeah, for me, it's recognizing where they come from, having that conversation, and then just having that perspective shift. And that's how you were able to overcome that.
As Coult shared, after reuniting with his wife, he found himself grappling with resentment over past hurts and challenges, like the money it costs to have her move out and then back in relatively soon. If left unchecked, those emotions could have easily pushed her away again. As I explained in that clip, resentment, if ignored, it grows louder and stronger. It's like a virus. Just you don't treat it, it's going to just multiply, okay, and grow. That's what that emotion and energy of resentment is. But to prevent it from undermining your efforts, you need to acknowledge it and recognize the negative feelings instead of suppressing them. Think of it as having a conversation with a younger, more hurt version of yourself. Shift your perspective. Ask yourself, how are those thoughts serving the man I want and the relationship I want to build? Because honestly, holding on to resentment only creates distance, and it restarts a cycle of just conflict automatically. By addressing resentment head on and reframing it, you create the emotional space needed to maintain steady effort and truly move the relationship forward. Now for Coult, the steady effort didn't just transform his own mindset. It led his wife to take take responsibility for her side of the street as well.
Things switched so quickly, and then it went in such a 180 that when my wife started moving back things into the house, all of the accountability went from kind of my issues to her taking full responsibility for her issues, and to the point where now we were having conversations about like, okay, you know, how are we going to get through all of the past traumas that you haven't kind of gone through that kind of led you to the point where leaving was the best option for you, type of thing in your mind?
When you apply steady effort, you eventually reach the final stage of the RISE framework. And this is what separates men who reignite deep connection and admiration from her and those who stay stuck in the same patterns, lose their wife, have it happen with their next. You get the point, okay? It's a stage where anxiety fades, confidence grows, and your wife starts to really feel safe, inspired, and drawn to you again. So let's jump in.
And I'm glad things turned around quickly, but within the first couple of weeks, like I was just dedicated to making things work and to kind of building myself up to a point. Really, it was at the time where I let go of the outcome and understood that regardless of the situation, things were going to be okay. And that was the most difficult part, was letting go of the anxiety, because it just made everything in my life more difficult, was being so anxious all the time.
Coult discovered the power of emotional freedom. It's the moment he let go of the outcome and truly trusted that he'd be okay no matter what. This mindset dissolves the anxiety, the cloud of doubt, and the fear that really hold you back, creating space for you to become the grounded, confident leader. Your relationship that yourself needs. Everyone in your life needs you to be that leader, that masculine man with integrity. It is no coincidence. Every man who successfully won his wife back through our program has unlocked some level of emotional freedom. When you achieve this, you'll not only feel empowered, but you'll also notice her starting to really relax in your presence. She'll be opening up in ways that she hasn't here. She'll begin to look at you with newfound admiration, seeing the man she fell in love with, the one she can trust and lead, provide, and protect her heart. Here is another client testimonial video that I suggest you watch. An inspiring story. You can set up a call with our team down below. As I said before, smash the like button if you enjoyed the video like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.